Red Kelly and Red Mitchell were sharing an apartment together on the Upper West Side. And Red Norvo, he'd just lost Charlie Mingus, and he'd left the trio. So he heard Mitchell play down in Birdland. It was kind of dark down there. Didn't really get a good chance to look at him, but he says, man, I got to get that guy's number. So he gets the number and he calls him up. The voice answers and he goes, hello? He says, hello? Is this Red? Kelly says, yeah. And he says, well, this is Red Norvo. I got a gig in Chicago for a week. You want to come and do it with me? And he says, yeah, sure. Okay, well, I'll come on out and get you. So they get in the car and they drive out and they get to around Cleveland. And Norvo, he turns around to Red and says, say, Mitchell, are you getting hungry? And he says, Mitchell? I'm Kelly.
Hi folks, welcome to New York Jazz Stories. These are real stories heard from New York jazz artists. Now, I have a show tonight at Joe's Pub at the Public Theater here in New York. I've also published a book of the stories in which I include maps to the locations where the stories took place. I'd like to investigate some of these locations as well and find out if, can we see any evidence of these stories in the locations.
I was called at the last minute to play in a Dixieland band on a Turkish cruise ship, which was to set sail from Brooklyn to the Caribbean, through the Panama Canal, and up the West Coast. The leader of the band was a moldy fig cornetist named Wolter Weirbos, who was subsequently sent to prison for plotting to blow up the Statue of Liberty in the company of a couple of FBI agents. The clarinetist was Ted Bellefeld, the sculptor who also happened to own a clarinet. Now the drummer, whose name I don't recall, was a relentlessly flashy bebopper. And then there was Herbie.
Welcome back, and glad to have you here. We're at Joe's Pub. We're early. Actually, we're at the sound check, so just come on in and take a seat, relax. I hate the sound checks between you and me because it's kind of a waste of time. They could have any monkey go up and bang on the piano and listen to the sound level. They always say, well, play like you're going to play in the show. I don't know how I'm going to play in the show.
We met at a pier in Brooklyn and set sail. And as soon as we'd left land, our salary was cut. Herbie made a dash for the rail, but we restrained him. As I recall, Herbie had pretty much no baggage, just his black suit, white shirt, and tie, which was all I'd ever seen him wear. We set up in the ship's salon for tea time and launched into the standard Dixieland repertoire. We promptly emptied the room, and it stayed pretty much empty for all of our subsequent performances. The ship's amenities were minimal. Dinner was lamb chops and chocolate ice cream every night.
And I never forget like one of the first concerts we had. I had to go by train from Groningen, which is like in the north of the Netherlands, to Amsterdam, and then I should meet Misha at his house, and Misha was one of the drivers of one of the cars, because there were 10 members in the group, and there were some cars going to Tilburg. So I was scheduled being in Misha's car with, I remember, Larry Fishkind and Kessie van Maslak. So the three of us, we gathered there at his house, at the steps of his house, and I was first, and I rang the bell. No answer. I thought, oh yeah, maybe Misha's out, or yeah, he will be back in a couple of minutes. Now, in the meantime, Larry was coming with his big tuba and Keshavan, and they said, oh yeah, Misha is always very lazy, blah blah blah. Let's ring the bell again. Brrr, we ring the bell. Nothing. No, and we thought, like, yeah, what can we do? Wait, just wait. No, like, and then like 15 minutes later, we thought, like, no, he should be back now. Like, I was already waiting an hour, something like that, outside. No Misha. So we tried to ring the bell again, and then the door opened. Misha, he was in his house. He said, yeah, sorry, yeah, I just woke up. And it was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. At that time I didn't realize that his day and night rhythm was completely swapped. Like, you know, he lived from 4 or 5 in the afternoon till the next day in the early mornings. But it was a kind of weird, you know. We had this appointment at his house, and there was no Misha. One of my first gigs, so I thought, what is this? So fine, and then Misha said he invited us in his house, like, yeah, come in, I'll make some breakfast for me. So, and he had to shower and everything, but it was like late already. I thought, like, shit, we have to go to the gig in Tilburg, which was at that time like a 2-hour drive. Like, oh, we will be certainly too late. And Misha didn't worry. He said, oh, relax. Who wants a cup of coffee? He had done his shower program. Now, that was another half an hour later. And we were thinking, like, shit, what's happening? And then he said, yeah, I'm gonna make some breakfast for myself. You want also something? Yeah, we said, Misha, we have to go to the gig. Yeah, okay. So finally we got on the road, and it was like just half an hour before the concert was supposed to start. You know, like, so we were sitting there in the car, and I thought, like, oh, what is this? What is this? What's happening now? And suddenly on the highway I thought, like, yeah, now it's about time that we start. So Misha was counting off 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, start. Of course we were not there. So we arrived in Tilburg much too late. I think 1 or even 2 hours later than scheduled, and the room was packed. And I remember Han was like with a purple head and completely very stressed up, like, because Misha was again very too late. And the rest was of course there, drinking, and the audience was there, and they loved it. And it was like such a heavy concert. That was, I think, my 2nd or 3rd concert with ICP, and I will never forget it. And there were also like Keshavan and Sean Bergen was in the band. They were literally fighting on stage, like kicking each other. And the audience thought it was like a part of the band, or so that was my first experience with ICP in the 80s when I joined the band, and I thought, like, wow, what is this? That's pretty wild.
It looks like the sound check is still going on here. Well, I guess I'm going to head over to Brooklyn. I want to check out a historical site. Cool. Well, I'll see you later tonight, everybody.
In the middle of the night, in the Caribbean, I was awakened by a loud clunk, followed by a weird silence. In the morning, we were told that the engine was broke. We wallowed in the open water for a couple of days, as I recall. And without refrigeration, the chocolate ice cream melted and was dumped overboard, forming a sickly, dark scum on the water. Eventually, we were joined by another boat, which towed us to Jamaica, apparently the nearest port. We were ferried ashore with all the other passengers when it became clear that the boat wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. The U.S. diplomatic representatives did what they could with us all. Our band was lodged for free in a local motel in exchange for performing by the pool. We spent a couple days in limbo, exploring the island, and we were flown to New York. We had no money. The U.S. government paid our fares. We arrived in Manhattan with barely enough money between us to get back to our homes.
Well, it looks like the show's about to start, so I hope you've had a good time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
And I hope you were entertained.
Please welcome to the stage Bernard
Thanks again for
Purdie and
coming.
David Haney.
I look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you. So, thank you so much for coming tonight. It's hard to get to New York, okay? Like, whether you're a traveler or a musician. And this is from Perry Robinson, that he said the most creative gigs are not money-making ventures. Okay? So a loss is to be expected, right? Now, as Lester Young told a musician who couldn't make an out-of-town gig because of the low pay, Lester told him, man, you got to save up for those out-of-town gigs.
Herbie was a pleasure. He wrote poetry daily during our adventure and showed it to me every evening. I ended up with several pages of verse in his own elegant hand, but I subsequently lost them. And of course, he played beautifully.